Sonic 06. Sonic 06, man. I mean, what can I really say about this game that hasn't been said to exhaustion at this point? The game was buggy. The story was mid. The motion capture was weird and janky. The characters controlled like garbage. But I'm not here to review the game, no. I want to look into how this game was being made, look at some concept art and cut content, and all of the changes that were made in development, so that maybe we can get a better understanding of why the game turned out the way it did. This is going to be the longest episode of what this game could have looked like, so I called upon someone who is an expert on this game. Carry box. Do you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Hello.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, dog.
Sorry, I have no idea what you're saying. I think the connection's bad.
Oh my god!
So in 2005, Shadow the Hedgehog was released, and to many this was the beginning of the dark age of Sonic the Hedgehog. With the 15th anniversary coming up and Sonic 06 already in development starting in fall of 2004, the pressure was on to make the greatest Sonic game of all time. It was going to be a soft reboot of the series, hence the name Sonic the Hedgehog with no subtitle. The game was ambitious. You could tell they wanted to do a lot with it, but due to various conditions, that would ultimately be to its detriment. For one, they only had a year and a half to work on it, with the game releasing on November 14th, 2006. Originally, they were planning on making a Wii port, but in fall of 2005, when the team received a Wii development kit, they realized that it couldn't be done. So one of the directors, Yojiro Ogawa, took half of the dev team to start work on Sonic and the Secret Rings. So now they only have 1 year left with half the staff. And then, what was probably the nail in the coffin, March 16th, 2006, more than halfway through development, Yuji Naka announced he would be resigning from Sonic Team. Well, I'm sure he's prospering now. All of that pressure was immediately put on the new director, Shun Nakamura. But sadly, fate would not be on their side. They had only 8 months of development time left, since Sega wouldn't budge on that November release date to coincide with the holidays. So, on November 14th, 2006, Sonic the Hedgehog would be released to the world on Xbox first, then PlayStation in January 2007, despite it releasing on the launch of the PS3. And I'm pretty sure you know the rest. It really is a shame with what happened here, and it's fun to think about what could have been, but we have what we have, and we gotta live with it.
Well, now that we have covered the development of the game, we can look into the concept art and see what they changed from the final game. First off, we look at the main character himself, Silver the Hedgehog. What? Who else you thought I was talking about? Now, similarly to Shadow, Silver went through many different alterations until they landed on his final design. One of those designs was him with a shit ton of quills on the back of his head, and overall just having way more traditional hedgehog-isms to him. He started to take on his own look when they started to implement technology into his design to try and sell that futuristic vibe to him. Here we could see what appears to be like a headband, which could possibly give him his psychic powers. In the next design, we see him go full cyborg, with Silver becoming basically fully cybernetic. I think this is way too overkill, so I'm glad that they didn't go with this one. On the next design, we start to see Silver mold into his final look. We get his weird weed quills on the front with the 2 in the back, with some minor differences like his quills being a bit more curved and his chest tuft being way more wild. Also, his boots and gloves look different, and as we go on, the design gets way more close to his final look. Over here, we have our first in color look, and we finally have those rings on Silver's gloves that are synonymous with his design. Also, he has green chest hair and gray gloves, and his boots are still a little bit different. The second to last design starts to really nail it down, but now this time he has golden hair, and his boots start to resemble their final design. Then finally, we landed on the final design of Silver, which is basically completely whited out, and his boots incorporated their own set of inhibitor rings, and they ended up straightening out his hair. And we even got a concept art of his super form, where we would see that his chest hair would also spike up. Now, moving on to the other concept arts, we actually get to talk about the main character Sonic. One of the earliest ideas for a new look for Sonic was that he would have this realistic fur texture and he would look like that one fan-made Sonic movie. They also tested this idea for Silver, but instead he would just be like actually made out of silver, but they scrapped these ideas pretty early on, it seemed. Probably because one, it was stupid, and two, it would probably be super intensive on the graphics to simulate all that shit. Eggman's design also looked pretty spot on to his final design, and I'm still baffled how they thought this was okay. We see some more screenshots of enemies that would feature in the game. One rendered screenshot of Silver, which looks like it's from his intro to his story. But moving on, we can also see some concept arts of Crisis City, and this is the first time I've seen in hell any game I've researched where straight up level design from concept arts makes it directly into the game. In like the half pipe section, we can see this exact piece of level design in the final game. Or this part in the game where Sonic is going around the building, that was also part of the concept art. And this one just really nails it on the head. We have level design where Sonic goes up this spring section that's sketched out and then made into a 3D model. I have never seen this level of detail in any type of Sonic art specifically for level design, and then it actually being acted upon in-game. Moving on, we see a lot of concept art for the storyboards for the cutscenes of the game, and a lot of what we can see here are renders for the intro cutscene of Soliana and the Sun Parade, and for some reason, the cutscene where Knuckles gives Sonic the message from Eggman. But looking at all of the renders, it's really impressive that they were basically able to get everything that they wanted into the game and have it look pretty spot on. Moving into 2005, we start to see the first hints of gameplay for 06. This comes from the TGS 2005 tech demo. Now, I talked about this in length in my Sonic Tech Demos video, but here I just want to go over the major changes from this version to the final. For starters, what was originally going to be the biggest feature in the game was a day and night cycle. Now, this could have been really cool for the hub worlds, but for the stages where you're in there for like 5 to 7 minutes max, it makes no sense. Also, it would have probably taken a toll on performance to have the light changing in real time on an Xbox in 2006 that quickly. So it makes sense why it was removed. Some other changes come in the level design of Kingdom Valley. Again, it seems like this was the first stage that they really worked on in the game, and it shows because it's the first level where we officially see in the CGI trailer, but some noticeable changes seem to be pretty minor. Like, instead of the air rail that's usually there, instead we have this bridge, which I actually really prefer. And some enemy placements are a bit different here, but for the most part, it's pretty spot on to the final. Now, up next, I want to talk about the early leaked script for the game. First off, Silver's original name was supposed to be Venus, and his character was supposed to be way more based off of Trunks than it is in the final game. He also got his psychic powers from the Chaos Emeralds instead of them being his own power. But in November 2005, his name would change to Silver. Princess Elise also had a name change, originally named Oliga, named after the Russian singer Origa, but then her name changed when they started recording her lines. In the script, it seemed like there were going to be many more hub worlds in the game besides the city and the forest. It seemed like there were also plans to add a forest, snow, and desert area, with there being lines in the script saying, "Go to the desert." But those areas were never added. There were also a lot of scenes in the final game that just ended up being cutscenes that were originally going to be playable. For example, this scene of Sonic and Elise running in the forest was originally going to be playable, and maybe when you get to a certain point in that playable section, it would then transition to a cutscene, which would have added a bit more immersion to the storytelling, which is a pretty cool thing that I wish even now they would do. There was also plans to be an Amigo boss rush, where you were able to fight a boss as a side character. In one of the lines, Tails was supposed to be fighting Cerberus, but we never got that in the final game. But we don't just have to look at a leaked script to see unused content. We can also look at the final game's manual to see features that never made it into the final game. The first one, and probably the most notable one, is the energy meter. Originally, the energy meter can be leveled up 3 times through the Chaos Drives, and the power gems were able to get different abilities that would drain the energy. This function was never implemented, however, into the game, but the bar still appears in the game, and Sonic can basically use those abilities indefinitely, which leads to massive skips. There also seems to be a cut feature from the tag mode where you're able to select individual levels and save your progress, but neither of these features were added to the retail release. Another feature that's kind of not there is Shadow's Chaos Blast. In the manual, it says that his Chaos Blast can destroy all enemies within a 10-meter radius. But in the retail release, the move just doesn't do that. He does it, but the attack just doesn't work. And the last thing that doesn't go unused is the rainbow gem. When used, it would allow Sonic to go super in the action stages, but again, like most things, it was left unused. With all of these different things being found in the manual, but none of them actually working or being in the game at all, there was a theory that the original version of 06 that was released was actually a beta build, and somehow they released the wrong version of the game instead. And there are rumors that there was originally a more complete and finished build, which might have some credence because the game's manuals are usually made after the game is finalized, but I don't think such a big error would be made. Even the way that this game was made, I don't think that would be the case, but who knows? Anything is fucking possible. And if you really want to go down this fucking rabbit hole, you could say that the reason that this game failed was because of Yuji Naka himself. Now, it's no secret that Yuji Naka is not the most pleasant person to work with, but why would he want to kill his own creation? Well, let's look back to 1994. Sonic Extreme started development, and he was all but absent working on the game, right? It was just a few people, and they were struggling. But they were offered the Knights engine. But out of nowhere, Yuji Naka threatened to leave Sonic Team if they used the engine. And because of that, the game ended up being cancelled. And would you look at fucking here, Sonic 06 is plagued with development issues and development struggles, and when shit gets tough, Yuji Naka gets gone. Now, this could all be just a theory, right? It's just a conspiracy. But look at how he acts with his former colleagues, especially Naoto Oshima, someone who made Sonic with him. So who's to say, not out of spite or jealousy or envy, that he tried to kill Sonic on purpose? My best theory is that he was sick of what Sonic was becoming and he wanted to end it before whatever he didn't want to happen happened, so that if this game was the Sonic killer, no one else could have another shot at him. I don't know. Seems far-fetched, but it's not far off either. Alright, enough psychotic rambling. Let's continue with the normal stuff. There were also a number of changes from the Xbox Live Arcade demo to the final. Now, the demo is by no means better than the final game, it's actually fucking worse, but there are some interesting changes here that seem intentional but were changed before launch. The first one is the Sonic's dash attack. It seems to obey gravity, having a downward arc, but in the retail version, he just dashes in a straight line, then drops like a rock. Another thing is that his power meter in the demo is empty when you start the game instead of full like the retail, hinting to it maybe being properly functional. And Sonic can lightspeed dash on any trail of rings in the demo, but cannot in the final game and is restricted to only certain lines of rings. And at the end of the demo, you see a trailer for the game, which looks like an early version of the intro cutscene to Sonic's story. Now, I'm not sure if these were specifically made for this demo, or these are actual screenshots of an early beginning cutscene, but I'm willing to bet it is an early version because we saw those in the concept art earlier in the video. But if you want to look even earlier, there's a bunch of footage of the E3 demo from 2006 that was playable, and here we have way more changes from the final game. Like, for example, when you go to choose a level, you have this unique looking level select using these scrapped renders of Sonic and Silver. The loading screen also has some changes, being all blue instead of showing the level. Once we get into the actual game, for once Sonic fucking spawns in the air, and we can see that the HUD also changed, being way more simplified all around, and even completely removing the energy meter. As for the level design, it's similar to the Xbox Live Arcade demo, but instead of, ending in the eagle takes you straight to the Mach Speed section, completely missing the Silver section and the third section of the level. Sonic's controls are also similar to the Xbox Live Arcade demo, with one big change. You can actually homing attack spam, and the delay is no longer there. But, that's a big but, there is a delay when you can move. So even though you can homing attack as fast as you want, there is still a bit of a delay when you're able to actually move again. For Silver, it's a similar situation to Sonic, where only a portion of his stage is playable, but I would say that portion is much longer. There's no blaze section, and there isn't even the end of the final part of the level, like there is with Sonic's demo. Unfortunately, we don't have the demo on hand, so we can't really go into the fine details, but according to Aaron Weber, that demo exists somewhere in Sega of Japan, so maybe one day we might get it out for the public and we can do a full in-depth dive with all the changes. But for now, we don't really have that. Now finally, I want to talk about the musical differences because there are a few here. The first one is the E3 version of His World. For one, the guitar riffs sound very different here, to make up for the lack of lyrics in this version. Also, it's pitched up a half step compared to the final version, making it sound way more energetic. And for some reason, every remix of this song is pitched up, and I personally like the lower tuning of the final game. Also, for some reason, they thought it was a good idea to add what I call the Saint Anger drum snare. If you know, you know. And personally, it's my least favorite version of His World, but it's still His World, so it's not that bad. Up next, we have Kingdom Valley from E3, which, instead of using real instruments, it sounds like it's using MIDI sounding instruments, and you can especially tell when you get to the Mach Speed section, but also because the strings in this version feel really weak compared to the final game. Also, the drums seem to have a different arrangement than the final game. For Crisis City, the changes are way more subtle. The arrangement seems nearly identical with a few small changes, like the instruments just being different or louder than the final game. But the most change happens towards the end, since, it's missing like half of the song, and it's missing a bunch of guitar riffs where it just goes super fucking wild, which kind of, makes the song a little bit worse, but they're basically the same. And there are some smaller musical changes like Dreams of an Absolution being the same, but they're having no lyrics yet. All Hail Shadow still using the 05 version instead of the new one, and the Egg Cerberus using MIDI instruments instead of live ones. And with that, those are most of the major and interesting changes to Sonic 06 and what it could have looked like. I feel like with Sonic 06, it's one of those games that where you look at the concept art and you can see the vision from those concept arts in the game, but the game is so technically broken, unpolished, and poorly designed that all of that good is just impossibly superseded with all of the bad. And again, I say this all the time, I wish that Sonic Team would go and actually do a remake of 06 and give it the love it deserves. But like BikuriBox said, we have the game that we have, and we have to live with it. But thankfully, things like Project 06 exist where we can see the game's full potential and what it could have been. So, I guess it's not that bad. And that's all I have to say for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment down below. What do you guys think about Sonic 06? Do you guys like it? Are you crazy? Do you guys not like it? Are you normal? But yeah, honestly, let me know what you guys think. And again, thank you so much, BikuriBox, for hopping on the video and talking about the game's development. I'm really happy that I was able to get him and you were able to hop on the video. Thank you very much. I appreciate it so much. And thank you again. I don't say this a lot often, but thank you everybody who watches the videos. I don't have, I wouldn't be able to make videos if it wasn't for you guys. I appreciate every single one of you. Yeah, I mean, I think for now, I'm gonna take a break from these videos. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna take a break from them. I'm gonna get to 8,000 subs and then do the next one. So when we get to 8,000 subs, let me know what you guys want to see. Again, I'm also very sorry for delaying this video. some shit's been going on in my life, but now it's here for you. So that's all I gotta say. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, turn on notifications, and I will see y'all in the next one.